Hi, this is needlepointers.com. Today I'd like to show you how to sew a buttonhole with the Bernina 3A buttonhole foot. This is a convenient buttonhole foot because it has a measuring guide on the side here that helps you measure the size of your button so that you can get your buttonhole the correct size. It also has sensor capabilities so that after you stitch the first buttonhole, it will stitch the same size buttonhole over and over and over again until you either press the clear button on your machine or you turn your machine off. So that's really helpful if you're sewing a garment and you need multiple buttonholes. So here I have picked out just a button from my button box. It's this red button, and I've drawn a line on my fabric with a start and an end on how big I want to make my buttonhole. And to figure out how big I wanted my buttonhole, I measured my button, and it's a little bit under 5/8 of an inch. So I did the buttonhole a little bit bigger than the 5/8 of an inch. And whenever you're doing a buttonhole for a garment, I suggest that you get the fabrics that you're using for your garment, and if there usually is some sort of interfacing or something in between the layers, and mock up the same sort of thing in a sample. So for my sample, I just have 2 pieces of muslin, and I put some lightweight interfacing and ironed it on in between. The other thing when sewing a button is that you will thread your bobbin thread through the hole that is in your bobbin chase. And so you just take the thread and put it through from the side the thread's on through and on out. And this just adds a little bit of tension, extra tension to your buttonhole and gives it a slightly different look. I've done it plenty of times without doing that myself, and the buttonholes look just fine to me. So I guess you can do it either way, but that is the official way to do it. So I put my bobbin back in, and I have my thread as black thread on the top and the bottom for this demo so that you can see. And I'm going to remove my number 1 foot and slide my buttonhole foot on. So the buttonhole stitch on my machine is the 0 stitch, and I just pick that stitch and it sets to the buttonhole. There are other options for your buttonhole stitches, so you can look on your all your stitches and find something that looks similar to this, and you will find the different options for the buttonholes. So let's stitch this buttonhole. I will line my buttonhole line up so that it's down the middle of my buttonhole foot, and then the needle down I want it to start right in the middle here. So I'll line it up underneath there, and this little marker is used so that you can see there's a little red mark on this side of the buttonhole that's going to move down, and this marker can be used to show you when you're supposed to reverse. So for the first buttonhole that you create, you have to indicate how long you want it to be by pressing the reverse button when you get to the end. So this little marker can help you judge when you're completed the first part of your buttonhole. So we'll start going down the left side of the button, and when you get to where the two red marks, the red dot lines up with the red marker, indicating you're at the end. Now I want to go backwards, so I click the reverse button once, and it will start sewing back. Then it starts sewing the top edge and then down the side. Once it gets to the end, it will do the end of it and do a couple little tacking stitches, and it will stop when it's done. So you keep going until it's done. You can stop in the middle and then continue on if for some reason you have to stop. It will keep going until it's done with the cycle. And it pops back nicely when you lift up the presser foot. And there's the first buttonhole. So now, in order to cut open your buttonhole, you have to be very careful. You don't want to snip any of the buttonhole stitches. And usually what I do is take my scissors, fold it in half, take my scissors, and make a very small snip. I just want to make enough snip to get through to the back so that I can stick my scissor then through that hole and then carefully snip my buttonhole open. You don't want to do a big snips. I usually go in small increments because you're trying not to snip past the end, and you don't want to snip any of the stitches along the sides of the buttonhole. So there. And then what I usually do is I'll test my button and make sure that I have it the right size, because there are many times when I don't get it the right size. So this one is perfect for that. So now say I have another button same size that I want to make on my garment. I just place my garment under, line up the line. I didn't mark it this time, but line up to where you've marked where you want your buttonhole to be. And this time I'll just put my finger on my two threads, my top and my bottom thread there, just to make sure that when it starts out, they don't get pulled up underneath. And there it's done. So you can see each time it makes the same size buttonhole. They don't look alike because I didn't have lines on there, so they're not quite lined up, but you can see they're the same size. And that's how your buttonholer works. The only other thing I have to remind you is that if you want to reset and restart your buttonhole, you can either switch off of the buttonhole stitch to like your number 1 stitch and then back to your buttonhole stitch, or you can press your clear button and that should clear the length of your buttonhole. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make a buttonhole with the Bernina 3A buttonholer's foot. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like, share, and comment on our video. If you'd like to see written instructions for this buttonholer foot, please click the link in the description of the video, and also visit needlepointers.com for lots of other sewing tutorials and projects.